Hi everybody, this is Dino Chris from Prehistoric Facts. This is an extra episode, and the reason why, and it's because I'm here to give you my review on Jurassic World. And as you can see, I'm wearing the Jurassic World t-shirt, and let's just say, I became a fan. And so that actually has got me to the point of where I would give you my full review on Jurassic World. Now, I'm not going to give any spoilers to anybody who has not seen it. So if you haven't seen it yet, go see it. Go see it, and then you'll understand. If you like it, great. If you don't, then that's okay. All right, now, what do I think about the film? Now, the film is really interesting. Colin Trevorrow, the director of the film, basically said that he did not want to actually have the park in the name. It's because he wanted to create something that is his own instead of actually what Steven Spielberg actually did. And Steven Spielberg is actually the executive producer of the film. And so he helped out Colin Trevorrow of actually how to understand how to basically look at this film and basically look at it into how the franchise actually began, and also how the dinosaurs would have actually looked, and all that kind of stuff. So basically, that's how it actually came to be. The action is just unbelievable. There's tons of action. It looks like you're on the edge of your seat almost every time when you actually see all this action. I mean, the action, I would say, is just amazing. The action is just so amazing. CGI effects, unbelievable. I wouldn't say they're actually as good as Jurassic Park, but even the first Jurassic Park, basically. But even though they're still pretty good. The cast is really interesting. The only one that is actually from the original Jurassic Park, and that is B.D. Wong, who makes basically a small role into this movie, but even though it's a little bit bigger than what he did in Jurassic Park. And so in Jurassic World, he's kind of the head scientist into this film. And so basically, he's the head scientist of Jurassic World, and basically he actually is the one that actually is leading the expertise of cloning these dinosaurs and all these kind of stuff. And in terms of all the dinosaurs that are actually in there, there are some disappointments that I'm not really... There's some disappointments. In the website, they actually say there's 16 dinosaurs that they actually have. Or 16 or over, I can't remember what it is. But even though some of these are not dinosaurs, basically, like the Mosasaurus, the Pteranodon, and the Dimorphodon. And of course, Indominus Rex is a made-up dinosaur. It's a hybrid dinosaur. And so I was disappointed to not see some of the Spinosaurs in the film, because even though they said they're in the film, but even though they're not, I didn't really see a Suchomimus or a Baryonyx in the film, so I was a little bit disappointed in that. But even though I was glad to see the raptors that are in there, I was glad to see the sauropods, even though there's no Brachiosaurus. They do have Apatosaurus. They have Triceratops. They have Stegosaurus. I mean, it's pretty good. And Tyrannosaurus Rex, my all-time favorite dinosaur, is in this film. And I would say the Mosasaurus is actually really cool. I would actually say the Mosasaurus is probably one of the coolest things that is in this film. It's not accurate, though. It's not, the only thing that is not... The things that are not accurate about this is basically its size. It looks like it's been double dosed on steroids. And basically, there's a little bit of a frill on the back, which that is not what we now know what mosasaurs probably look like. And also, the tongue is actually wrong. The tongue is actually wrong. It kind of made it more of like a fleshy type of tongue, instead of like a forked tongue like its common ancestors, the monitor lizards. And so that's a knock on that. The science in Jurassic World is really iffy, and that's basically that it does not do a really good job of actually showing the science of paleontology and basically not showing the science of other types of biology. But even though it does actually bring up some biology tasks in there. And I would say that the plot of this film is okay. I would say the plot is okay. The action is good. I'd say the acting is pretty decent. I would actually say it's kind of above average a little bit, above average. So Chris Pratt is just an amazing actor. I think he's got a really good future in action films. I think he's just gonna have a great career in action films, not only in Guardians of the Galaxy, but I think considering that he's being signed to a couple sequels of Jurassic World, I think that's a cool thing to actually keep a character, and it's pretty interesting though that B.D. Wong and Vincent, I totally can't get his last name, is actually a little bit of a Law and Order type of kind of thing going there, because B.D. Wong is in Law and Order SVU, and then Vincent, he was in Law and Order Criminal Intent, and so that kind of puts a very interesting thing about that. There's a little bit of a Law and Order connection there. I'd say Bryce Dallas Howard's performance, she actually did really well. Her character is a little bit of I would say that you cringe every time you look at this character, because you can totally see that maybe not the greatest figure to look up to in terms of kids. But even though, hey, the kids that are actually in this film, the two stars in the film that are basically the kids, the two brothers, well, basically they play brothers, but even though they do a pretty good job. And I'd say there's not a Jurassic Park like type of movie without any kids in it, especially child actors. Because you see, why actually not have that? Because then it just takes everything away. About what are the kids really going to make of this film? But I would recommend kids that are old. I would say actually have kids that are actually probably 8 years old or above to actually go see this film. If they're below 8 years old, I would not recommend it by parents, because you see, this is not a family-friendly movie. This is basically a sci-fi action thriller, and there's basically violence. There's a lot of explosions. There's animal peril, basically a lot of animal fighting and attacking and all that kind of stuff. There's blood, and so that pretty much I would say that keep it pretty clean for the kids. Basically, don't actually let them see this film totally yet until they're old enough to see this. Because I would say have kids watch this film probably when they're 8 years old, even though it's a PG-13 movie. I would actually say that maybe actually just have the kids watch it with parental guidance, basically, because you see, this is kind of a scary film in terms of little kids. So I would say below 8 years old, do not see this film, because you see, this is actually not a family-friendly film. And by any chance, I would say that the first Jurassic Park would actually be a good starting point for anybody to actually kind of understand Jurassic World, because that actually will come into play. Now, but even though in this film, Lost World Jurassic Park and Jurassic Park 3 never happened. So basically, this is actually a film that is actually just taking away the other sequels of Jurassic Park. So basically, it took away JP2 and JP3. So basically, you do not see any of this, even though the Spinosaurus skeleton is in there. But even though it's basically just to show that this never happened. But even though I would say that this is a really good film. I'd say this is a really good film. I'll probably give it 3.25 stars out of the whole thing. I'd say that it has great action. The cast is perfect for this. A lot of pretty good CGI effects, pretty good special effects. The scenery is amazing. And some of the dinosaur action is really cool. And I would say, look forward to a great ending. I actually love the ending. The ending is just so perfect, and I just was like overly thrilled about the ending. So basically, it was great about the ending. And in terms of the science, I would actually say that not really that great of a scientific type of film. And even though this is not a documentary, this is a sci-fi film. And if this was a documentary, then we would actually be looking at this film very differently. It would actually be more of like kind of like what Walking with Dinosaurs actually was. Not really that much of the family-friendly film, but more of like the TV series. And so that would actually be one thing. And I would have loved to have seen feathers on some of the dinosaurs, even though Jack Horner said they want to have this movie be consistent with the other films. So basically, I understand of that, and I've watched an interview of Jack Horner talking with somebody that is actually running a scientific website. He says that the public is probably ready for feathered dinosaurs, and I would agree with him on that one. I would agree with that one. I would love to see feathered dinosaurs, and like maybe within like the next few years, in terms of dinosaur movies. And I think this film would actually kick up interest in dinosaurs and other prehistoric life. But basically, they'll actually raise a lot of questions still too, because they'll raise a lot of questions for the public to actually ask professionals, and also people that actually talk about dinosaurs a lot, like myself, to actually explain some things about like some certain dinosaurs. And so that would actually be pretty cool. And I think that this film will boost museum attendances that have dinosaurs. Will actually have a kickstart to it. I think the Field Museum in Chicago is just getting loaded with people just because they want to see Sue and also all the other dinosaurs that are actually in the basically in the fossil hall. So that would be pretty cool. And I would say if you want to actually ask anybody about certain types of dinosaurs, you can always ask a professional at a museum or a university, or otherwise you can ask some people that actually do this kind of that do like what I do. Basically, just educate people about dinosaurs and other prehistoric life. Feel free, to ask any questions, and especially Dinosaur George, who is a good friend of mine. He actually does almost the same thing, but even though he gets really busy certain times of the year, so basically he's very limited in terms of his answering questions. But even though he is willing to read questions, and hopefully he can actually get to a video at some point. I'm a fan of his, and hopefully he can actually do a video at some point. And also feel free to ask me or anybody else that does this kind of stuff ask me any question about dinosaurs or other prehistoric life. Or otherwise, feel free to ask me anything about the movie if you've actually seen it. That'll be great. And I would say for this film, highly recommended, and it deserves to actually deserved that big opening weekend, breaking a record of the biggest opening weekend in the box office of all time, beating out the Avengers. And I'd say that just shows dinosaurs are cooler than superheroes. Sorry, but even though I like dinosaurs more than superheroes, but I still love superhero movies. Alright, that's it for now, and this coming Saturday would actually be a new answering questions episode. So if you have any questions about dinosaurs or any other prehistoric life, feel free to email me at dinochrist71@gmail.com. Otherwise, you can go on Facebook and go on the fan page, Prehistoric Facts with Dino Chris. Like the page, you can actually post your questions on any Facebook post, basically in the comments section. But also keep your questions short and to the point, and that way I can actually read it and also understand what your questions are. And also make sure to leave your first name and also the city and state of where you're from. That way I can understand where it's coming from. And also you can follow me on Twitter at CSGRALL. That's my Twitter page, and I post pretty cool stuff there. Also take care of the people around you, and those if you're younger people out there, make sure to listen to your parents, your teachers, and your guardians. Those are the best motivation you could have for a good education. It's very important to have a good education, because with a good education, you get a good job in the future. Alright, that's it for now, and I'll see you guys this Saturday.